It was a tough year, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's there's a lot of politics at play there too, and I hate to see that, you know, uh affect the team as it were.
Yeah, I'm hoping we hear some positives on the rebuilding of the team soon. It kind of worrisome we don't have any recruits for next year yet.
It's more than worrisome, yes, sir. Um, it looks like we're going to have some decent turnover in the assistant coaches as well.
Yeah, yeah, it sure does. So, oh well, fingers crossed.
Gotta hope for the best. I just think, I think this was a personnel issue this year. I think it became to the players more about money than performance.
Yeah,
And I think once they realized they needed to play with heart, they wanted to do it, but it was too late.
yep.
That's
And
just
I
my
think you're
opinion.
right.
All right, we're live. So getting ready to start. John, good talking to you, Naresh.
You too. Take care.
Like we're gonna have a short crowd on the Zoom today.
Sixth meeting of the Rotary Club of Lexington. My name is Bill Wilson, your servant leader, at least for one more week. Anyhow, as such. At this time, we would like to have Gary McCormick come forward and give us our inspiration four-way test and pledge.
Thank you, Bill. First, we'll start with the pledge and then the four-way test. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now, the four-way test. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? Thank you. You may be seated. We spend, whoa, sorry about that. How about that? Better? We spend a lot of time waiting for big moments to change our lives. Waiting for that job, that promotion, waiting to find the right partner or spouse, closing the big deal, graduation day, reaching your weight loss goals or any other personal goal that you may have. But here's the secret. Big things are built by small, consistent, persistent acts. One hello becomes a friendship. 1 hour becomes a habit. One small yes leads to a doorway to something bigger. When you became a Rotarian, you became something bigger than yourself. Rotarians show up. They make a difference. They turn small acts into big things. They make a difference, not only in our community, but our world. Not by waiting for big moments, but by creating them. One person, one act of service, one project at a time. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary. It's now Rob, introduction of guests.
Well, good afternoon. We do have a good crowd and some guests, great guests too. First is Jay Phillips. He's our Rotaract president over here. Welcome him. David Blondell is here with his father again. David. John Phillips is a guest of Sean Lyons. Graham Reese is here, back here. Very good. Chelsea Kirk is a guest of Jenny Sure. John Atchison is Lyle Hanna's guest up here in front. Will Hanrahan is a guest of Christy Wolgren. And Ed Durrell is a guest of Jamie Schrader. Welcome to our guests.
To all of our guests, we really love having you and we thank you so much. There are a lot of things you could have done today, but the fact that you would spend it with Rotary, we really appreciate that. So hopefully something will be said and done here that you want to come back and maybe even join us. Thank you so much. Now for lottery. Cliff. Okay.
Numbers are getting big.
They're getting made. How much do we have now?
882.
We have 882 and we're looking for the
Ace of diamonds.
Ace of diamonds. The number, first one, the last three digits is 148. 148.
How big is the pot? 882. Well, after today, actually now it's almost 980 after today.
Okay. 148. Is that okay?
Well, look at you. There you go. I knew Duncan will get it. All right. Any cards you want. Just pick one. 5 of clubs. Next time.
Sorry, I got another one for me. Get the.
Oh, sorry.
Get it.
Yes, you got one at a time.
Get to do a double. Number last three digits 162. 162.
There we go. Chris.
All right.
All right. It's kind of a mess there. It's kind of a mess. Grab one. I got your buck. I gotta give Duncan this. I gotta give Duncan this. Hell close. It's spades. There you go. All right, I'll go give Duncan.
Okay. Celebrating birthdays this week, Rotarian Liz Fowler, Crystal Newton, and Bill Cox. Let's give them a Rotary applause for their birthday celebration. And now we have a couple of announcements. A Community Service Committee meeting following today's lunch. All are invited to attend. Also, Paul Stanley, who's the chairman of our foundation committee, is having another meeting this afternoon or right after this lunch. Paul Stanley, see him. Early morning mixer. Tomorrow morning, our club is sponsoring the breakfast with Dancing with the Lexington Stars. This is from 8 to 9:30. It's on the Solutions 46 in the Lexington Green. It's a wonderful place to meet new people and to recruit also good people. So come out and share your experiences with some of the new people or some of the people that might be interested in Rotary. Red to blue badges, Susie and Chris, come forward. For those of you who are not familiar with it, when you become a member of Rotary, we give you a red badge. And then after you pay $150,000, we give you actually, you have to do a community project. And if you do a community project, then we bring you in with the blue badge. So that's what today is about.
I guess I still need a red badge. I'm really excited to get to announce this. This is the fall 25 group, and they really did embody service above self and did that one project that one time. They did a really cool project about the nest. Y'all can read about it in the Wheelhorse, but I'm gonna call your name, and when I call your name, you come up and come over here, and Chris will have your badge for you, and then at the very end, we'll have a picture. The first one is Chrissy Woodrum. She is been very active and she is going to be working with she's been in the God's Pantry backpack program, the pollinator group, and the Dancing with the Stars committee. Then we have Cliff Goodkin. I just saw Cliff. Oh, there he is. He does the lottery. Come up here. Yeah. So, and then Lewis Hatcher. He has been working on the Wilhurst Committee. He's already done some articles for it, so we really appreciate that. So, Zach Melskow. Zach, are you here? There, yeah. Zach is actually a transfer. He already has his blue badge, but we wanted to come up anyway. He's been doing the God's Pantry backpack thing and is interested in the Boy Scout committee. Chris, yeah, interested in the Boy Scout committee. Abby Vaughn, she has been working with the lottery committee. She also jumps in all the time and helps with the cashiers and is on the Dancing with the Stars committee. Then Monica Owens, are you here, Monica? I don't think she got to come today. Okay, she's working with the Dancing with the Stars committee. So, okay, then we have Lee Anderson. Leah's here. And she is on the Dancing with the Stars committee, among other things. And Ryan Dulles. He's going to be joining the Community Service Committee. Did you hear that, Alicia? Sorry. He's going to be on the Community Service Committee. Brian Dolans, and he helped us out a lot with pickles and pints. So we very much appreciate that. There's a couple others that are, Gary Wilmoth is in this group, but he already has his blue badge. Come up so you can be part of this. He was a transfer. Then we also have Mariana Talby, John Rich, Ruth Ann Palumbo, and Dick Carroll were also part of that group, but were not able to attend today. So there you go. Thank you so much. And for the new yearlings that we have, don't forget we have your yearling orientation is the 31st, March 31st at 4:30 at the Rotary office. So we're excited to start the new group. Thank you.
Well, congratulations for moving from the red badge to the blue badge. And thank you, Susie and Chris, for the work that you've done in terms of leadership for this particular group. Now we will have Lyle Hanna, President-elect, to come and introduce a new member.
Well, while our new member's getting up here, I want to mention that a lot of you helped me with Souls for Souls. So I had to go to a big meeting of Rotary for all of Alabama, Tennessee, and Kentucky last week down in Chattanooga. And so I took 225 pairs of shoes. Thank you all very much for donating that. This Souls for Souls, they service 129 countries around the world. It's kind of a big deal. I didn't know much about it, but they're out of Nashville. But get this, we brought in more shoes than any group in their history. And they've been around for about 20 years. We brought in over 10,000 pairs of shoes. So what a big deal for Rotary, eh? But yeah, way to go. Not bad. But we've got another big deal standing right here beside me. This is Rick Walls. He lives over in Richmond, but he's in Lexington every day because he works for the United Way. 25 years of giving back to our community and working. He's had his own business. He's just had a lot of success, but he's got a daughter now and he's like having a good time. And so he's working for United Way, just having a ball. He's the development officer for stewardship. So some of you have given down United Way in the past. Come on, this room. I can't imagine. Oh, I need to step up here. You all couldn't even hear me, all that stuff I was saying. All right, good, because I don't want to repeat that. So Rick Walls here works at United Way. Great job. And mentioned he's got a daughter. In fact, she's doing very well. She just joined the Madison County Sheriff's Office. And he's just very involved in the community, making things happen. And of course, like Rotary, it's like United Way, they do those same things sometimes. So pretty cool. Let's give a big warm welcome
to Rick Walls. Thank you. Very much.
Now it's time to actually give the oath of office to the last of the Fab Four. Now, remember, we had a person who was designated to become president and she couldn't take on those responsibilities. So they chose 4 men to do what 1 woman did. And to Jamie Schrader and to Jim Richardson, they have done a wonderful job of setting the pace. The advice that they gave me is, Wilson, for goodness sakes, don't drop the baton. I now pass it on to a Rotarian's Rotarian. Dean, would you join me here for the oath of office? I don't know whether you want to stand near the mic or not.
They can hear me.
Okay, just repeat after me and we'll give you this raise. So please raise your right hand and of course repeat after me. I, your name,
I, Dean Hammond,
as president of the Rotary Club of Lexington,
as president of the Rotary Club of Lexington,
will to the best of my ability
will to the best of my ability
administer the duties
administer the duties
of the office of president
of the office of president
in a businesslike manner
in a businesslike manner
and in accordance with
and in accordance with
the club's constitution and
the
bylaws.
club's constitution and bylaws.
Congratulations. You got it.
Sir.
He can take over now. See, I'm gonna sit back and have my tea and what have you. I'm gonna enjoy myself. Dean, well, we got a really great guy. Dean, you all know him. He's a wonderful leader. He's a great inspirational leader, and it's a pleasure to work with him on this last run here.
Thank you, Bill. Appreciate it. Well, you know, when you have a transition like this, they give you a little teeny audition piece to do on this day. And looking at the time, I better get on with it. So I'm going to bring up our very own Jake Graves to introduce our speaker today. Thank you, Dean. Ladies and gentlemen, Rural Urban Committee is real pleased to bring another important topic before us today for our discussion, and that's affordable housing. Why is rural urban interested in affordable housing? Well, first, as a farmer, I can tell you about that in a second, but also as chair of Central Church Apartments across the street, which is a Section 8 202 project, also very dear to me. But let's talk about farming briefly. You know, there's a constant debate about how much development land is necessary within the urban services, right, Mr. Atchison? Right, good builder over here. And the other is farmers, what's sustainable? My cousin who farms next to a subdivision has mothers jumping over the fence demanding to know what he's spraying. And he tells them, I'm spraying what you can buy at Home Depot to get rid of the weeds. Do you want a little overspray? Well, that's not well appreciated. Or when he's combining soybeans, which is a very dusty proposition, he gets beer cans thrown at the combine. So challenging. And there's some farmland in Fayette County that really shouldn't be farmed. It's too steep, it's too erodible, very shallow soil. So what's it good for? It's good for grazing goats and agritainment. But as you recall, there was quite a dispute over agritainment zoning, right? All right, let's talk about across the street over here. That project was built in the 80s. And it has consistently, since that time, had over 30 people standing in line to get in. Now think about that. How do we get more of those types of properties? As a farmer, I can tell you, if real estate is the issue, why aren't we going up instead of out? Fair question. Had the distinct pleasure of visiting Seoul, South Korea in 2024, one of the cleanest cities I've ever been in. 10 million people, 2.5 times the population of the state of Kentucky. How do they do it? They go up. They have 35-story apartment complexes, and they just increased it to 40 stories, got over the moratorium, be able to handle the population. So we've got some interesting questions before us, the Urban Planning Commission, the Urban County Government does. So it's a very timely topic. Now let's talk about our speaker. Mr. Ed Holmes is a graduate of UC. He is from Alliant, Ohio. He's married, has 2 children and 4 granddaughters. His bio is in the wheel horse. It's an outstanding person. I'm gonna shut up and get him on the stage. Ed Holmes, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah. Thank you, and it's always a pleasure to get out and speak to individuals and people I've worked with, and spent a lot of my time and career here in Lexington. So it's a great pleasure to be before such a large group of individuals. Like I said, my name is Ed Holmes. And you've got my bio, but I've been practicing planning one way or another with Frank Thompson and a few other people that I know for a long time here in Lexington. I moved to Lexington, started my work at the Bluegrass Area Development District, and have been involved ever since in the community. And it's a great community. I've raised my family and kids here. And like all of you, how do you manage the growth in Lexington? And we were hired by the city about a year ago to do an affordable housing study for the city of Lexington. And so I'm going to talk to you on some of the numbers and things that we found in that study, and then give some recommendations on how we manage this issue of growth here at Fayette County. The study produced, and everyone's heard the numbers, there's a gap in Lexington now of about 23,000 housing units that we need to address the needs of affordable housing. And how are you going to make up that gap in a short amount of time? And it's not going to happen overnight. And we didn't get to this point overnight, but the gap is growing exponentially every year. Out of that 23,000 units, the rental gap's about 13,000 units of affordable housing. And I'll go into detail on what we define or how we define affordable. The units for sale, there's a gap for homeownership of about 35,000 units. And permanent supportive, that's more with the homeless and addressing those needs, because there's an issue there with them on affordable housing. So there's various components, but out of that makeup is 23,000 units. That the composition of that gap is growing ever so fast for us. As you can see, the rental gap is about 74% of that 22,000, those numbers that we talked about earlier. 20% is the home ownership, and that number is growing as well. And once again, the homeless supportive housing is the smaller portion of it. This didn't come out the way I thought it would. What we've got in terms of that gap is the city needs additional types of housing units, and out of that you're going to see the rents in the area. The median rents for our units have increased by 47%. It's went from $1,200 to $1,250 with about 8.7% growth in the past year alone. And now the rents have even gone up even higher, looking at about $1,800 a month. So between 25 and 26, we've seen, 24 and 26, we've seen a 44% increase from the $1,200 to the $1,800. And the housing gap also, the burden is addressing, how do you address 80% or lower? That's the area median income of about $63,000. And how are you going to address that? People making 80% of the median income, we're trying to provide housing to address those needs. A lot of these numbers gets to be overwhelming, and they're less attainable. The city has an affordable housing fund, which they've invested over the last, since its inception, about $47 million. $47 million you would think would address a high number of meet the housing affordability needs. And that hasn't even touched it. Even with 47 million invested, we still have a 20,000 hole to try and fill. With their 47 million, they've built about 1,700 new units, and they've preserved or renovated or rehab about another 1,700, about 3,500 units have been invested with that 47 million. So the average cost is about $14,000 they put into the units. And what we're seeing now with their fund, that $13,000 cost is increasing significantly, where they're putting much more into an affordable unit. So their main focus is, how do we focus on affordability? How do we make devise a program that would make this work in a much more affordable range? So to summarize some of the housing data, total investment of $47 million will yield about 3,700 units. And these units have supported the average of the $1,300 in home ownership but they've addressed a small number of home ownership. About 33 units have been designated under home ownership, and the remainder has been addressed through 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom rental units. So the majority of their funds are being used for rental, and there's still a need to addressing that gap in the home ownership range. Special populations, those are the ones that we're talking about in terms of elderly, supportive housing for survivors of intimate partner, the domestic violence, and the homelessness. That was the other gap that we're seeing. The home ownership are averaging housing costs of about $1,200 a month is what we're seeing in our home ownership. Rents are upward of 1,000, going even higher. And student housing has also been a component of this because there's a need in student housing. They've increased by 33%, and that's not part of the 27,000 units we're talking about. Unemployment trends have spiked, and that was a function that we saw during COVID, and that led to another part of the gap. So Lexington's needs are still there. The gap is growing, and what we have is what we call the missing middle. Is those that are left out. We got the low income and the small single family units, and then we have the mid high rises. But there's a middle part of Lexington that's not being addressed. And those are units that could be duplexes, triplexes, bungalows, townhomes. There's a group that are being cut out of this equation. And even though we're trying to address affordability as those earning 80% or less of the median income, there's still a gap for those that are at the 80% or to 100 and 120%. So there's a huge gap that exists, and we're not building enough within that missing middle. We've got to become more creative on how we address that. And here's just a rendering of what we're talking about with the missing middle. The detached single family homes, that's been the typical development pattern we've had. And the missing middle housing is anything from duplexes all the way up to live, work, the multiplex type of units as well. But what we're seeing is we've got to build smarter and better, and possibly even increasing our density. That income band that we're talking about would be those that earn 30% or less of the median income of their income. If you're paying less than 30%, I think HUD defines that as at least you're within the affordability range. But if you're using 30% or more of your income to meet your housing needs, then there's a affordability question that arises. So the majority are paying less than 75%, are paying less than the 30%. But when you start getting into the home ownership, there's another large gap of 13% that are paying 30 to 50% of their affordable income. Okay. I think I talked about the median rent increases. It was 47% between 2019 and 24, and that has increased in 2 years. It's jumped to 44%. That was over a 5-year period. Within 2 years, those that are paying 44%, so that median income is going very fast, going up. 55% of the renters are cost burdened, which means they're paying more than a third of their income just for rent. And those are paying more than 50% are severely cost burdened. So there's an income and affordability gap that's we're seeing in Lexington. Vacancy rates are in the 9% range, somewhere in there. So what do we do and our priorities are moving forward? What we've got to do is prioritize how do you address that 30% income, those that are overpaying more than their rent. And so what some suggestions would be expand workforce housing, those that are within that middle income that can afford some rents, but they can afford their rent, they can afford ownership, but they just can't afford the price and cost for a house these days. We've got to accelerate and build more rental units. And with that comes a demand for land, regulatory improvements, and more public-private partnerships that could make this, go a little better. The path forward to address that would include 22,000 units, obviously goes from families to seniors. We've got to have a stable economy, and Lexington's growing to a certain rate, and to address the economic needs of meeting that demand, we've got to build more units. We need a coordinated policy on investment. We need more funding to incentivize even the city or other public-private partnerships to get this done. So we've got to this was the missing middle. The missing middle addresses this was done in the pre-1940 Lexington neighborhoods where you saw the single family housing development, the patterns that we see today in the community for the most part. It's largely restricted to R1 residential zoning, and it used to serve the workforce, and it served it adequately for a long time. And it was compatible with the traditional neighborhood scales that we see in Lexington. But what's critical is we've got to have some incremental increases in our density to meet the housing demands that are facing communities. And this is not unique or new to Lexington. We're seeing it all over, Kentucky and in the country. There are some ways we can do some zoning reforms. You could allow duplex and triplexes by right. And the planning staff and the planning commission are looking at some of these, reduce the minimum lot sizes and frontages, eliminate some of the excessive parking requirements that are allowed, and to allow more cottage, court, and small multiplex type of developments. And the city has recently adopted the accessory dwelling units, encouraging more flexible density bonuses. And one I didn't put on the list was we need some type of incentivized zoning and inclusionary zoning, and that where you encourage or try and incent developers to build affordable housing into their developments, but in return for some concessions or density increases. The current zoning is R1, and with some missing middle reform, you could almost triple the number of units in an R1. And those are things that would lead Lexington to address that. Key takeaways that we need to do is diversify our funding streams. Successful cities have been able to leverage a mix of local, state, and federal funding programs, public-private partnerships. I know Lexington is doing a partnership similar to what the Transylvania Housing Development, where the bankers and the state has come in together with the city to collaborate in getting some private and nonprofit developers to build some affordable housing. And that will generate upwards of maybe 70 units on that side. Tax levies are never very popular, but that's one way to raise some money to require public approval for substantial funding. And the state is also looking at ways to address that. Similar to what there were some tax increases for Lextran in the parks. We need to look at doing some of that for housing as well. Innovative financing mechanisms, tax increment financing, and here's the inclusionary zoning would be some ways to generate more funds and units. So with that, we're approaching a critical juncture here in the community. The numbers are not going to go down. We can't build enough units fast enough. And then you factor in the need for land, and land is just as expensive as the cost to build housing. So we've got to be creative in how we plan for our growth. It used to be you could afford a 12,000 square foot lot for a single family house. And now we're looking at another planning staff's looking at 5,000 square foot lots. So we need smaller lots. We're not going to see those large lot types of developments, and you will see them, but they're going to be very expensive to build on. And there are projects where people still demand those, but they're way outside the affordable range. But there are groups of individuals and developments that addresses that. But to address our 22,000 need, we're going to have to shrink our lot sizes, and the cost of the build construct is still going up. So we got to be more creative in how we can plan and effectively address those needs. So I'll be happy to answer any questions. Yes.
So I noticed that there's been more of a trend with small business corporations buying up single family units for rentals, which obviously then there's a profit aspect, which increases the cost of housing. Has there been any talk or discussion of limiting how many properties or the density of corporation owned property?
Not that I'm aware of, but we have seen that we've done we work with other planning commissions in and around the Bluegrass region and some of the other states, Tennessee and Ohio as well. And we've seen corporations purchasing property, and but there hasn't been a push from a regulatory side to address that. And it's profit motivated. It's driven by the economy and driven by the profit that they know they can make a pretty significant amount. So it's still going to take a strong position from the city, from government, from a regulatory aspect, and also from a financing arm to make it successful. The market-driven housing is sort of the backbone of this country in terms of how they've done it. But until we recognize that there's a need, and if the corporation moving into the community, if they can't have a workforce that can afford to live here, then it doesn't serve a purpose. So that they really have to address workforce housing to drive their businesses. Yes.
And I noticed lots of vacant lot, large size. Are there like a prohibition of they can go for a larger, like 5, 6, 7-story apartment buildings?
Usually the regulatory will have some controls over that. And to build, it's easier if you can get a large tract of land and build on it. There's some significant regulatory requirements, whether it's zoning and permitting, that will limit what can be done. But there's always the city's been encouraging infill, and that's why they've reduced the lot sizes to as small as 3,000 square feet, I believe. So infill will address some of the need, but it's a little bit more difficult to build, especially if you're going to increase the density. You get pressure from neighborhood associations, organizations, and neighbors that are surrounding it. I noticed that was in the Transylvania project, where there's this massive amount of opposition to that project, and it wasn't even a very high dense project. But you'll always get some opposition from people that are your neighbors, or not necessarily want to see that level of intense development in their community. But parking and traffic are always big concerns. Yes. What was your question? Yeah, there are some cases where mixed use would be successful and make that work. Encouraging, capitalizing on the mixture of uses and zoning that could possibly go in there. I haven't seen very many that have done. There's been a few in town infill projects, especially where they've taken some commercial and adapted it. There's cities in I think Cincinnati's done some mixed use commercial neighborhood infill as well. Yes.
Yeah. I want to mention we were working their enrollments increased dramatically. We're not building any more dormitories that they do their land with no value whatsoever. Commercial purposes. That's impacting our neighborhoods adversely. It's also just one land. It could be used for workforce employees, things like that. What's the you have a feel for how that overall development?
Well, it definitely impacts the neighborhoods. When we did the affordable housing study, we talked to the University of Kentucky, and they're outsourcing the majority of their units now for development to housing students. You see things like the Lex, the Red Mile. So they're getting out of the housing business and encouraging private developers. And then that's when you're getting some of the mixed use that helps maybe underwrite the cost of that development. But it has a huge impact. And there are affordability issues with UK students as well. When we talk to them, that they've got a few dormitories, and I don't believe they have any new ones planned on the books. And their recommendations to us in the report was they're going to try and address their housing needs through private landlords. Yes.
Yeah, it's already a possibility of expanding non-Fayette County. Discussions that would like to the Fayette County, but what about expansions around the county?
Yeah, they do have their needs as well in terms of affordable housing. Scott County, we're doing some work in Harrison County and Bourbon County. When you get to one, you're maybe 30, 40 minutes at best outside of Lexington, and still there are some land use concerns. Scott County is really busting at the seam in terms of their growth in land. In the other counties, you don't have the conflict with growth as much as you see here in Lexington. But I think you'll see some development occurring in some of those. Once again, it's accessibility. Scott's very accessible. Bourbon with Paris Pike is somewhat accessible. You get to Harrison. Madison County is very accessible. And we're seeing growth even push as far back as Berea because they're so accessible. They've got a very strong industrial base, and you can hop on 75 and be in Lexington in 20 minutes to Berea. So they're looking at how do we address, they want to retain individuals in those communities. So, growth could occur in those, and those are encouraging and actually wanting to see more growth in those ring counties if they yes.
Clarify the 22,000 number. Was that 22,000 affordable housing shortage or housing?
There's affordable.
So that does not include market rate
Right.
housing. So that in itself lived at a missing middle level, say 10, even that's 2,200 acres.
Yeah.
Infill's not going to cover that.
No, infill can't address the entire need. And that the gap is for affordable housing. That's that anyone 80% or less of the area median income. It's a huge number. In Louisville, there's 40,000 units.
Thanks, sir. Well, thanks so much for filling us in on the affordable housing status of our city. And we've got a little gift here from you. It's a lithograph from our very own Bill Strauss, the photographer extraordinaire.
Oh, thank you very much.
Thank you. Don't forget 46 Solutions in the morning at 8 o'clock. That's your next step, right? And we'll see you next week. You got something? Community service meeting and the TRF meeting, right? Yes. We are adjourned.